What's going on, everyone? Let me welcome you to the Instant Classic Wrestling Podcast. And first, before we get into this episode, which is the 515 episode of Impact Wrestling, let me first talk about what's going on with the Instant Classic Wrestling Podcast. First off, I've two interviews set coming soon. I haven't set the dates yet, but I'm still working with them. One is with a wrestling fan. I want to get his outlook on different wrestling topics. And another one is from a company called British Bombshells, which is an all women's wrestling company. She's gonna come and talk about somewhat around the importance of women's wrestling, why she thinks it's important. Because I know for a lot of people, women's wrestling and the main companies we know of are pretty much the bathroom breaks. So like I said with my first episode, I said I want to look at every single aspect of wrestling I can. So I'm starting with women's wrestling, ladies first, of course, and you know, and I'm going also with the fans as well. I'm trying to see, what do the fans think? If you're a major TNA fan, what do you think about what? Why do you really like TNA better than you like WWE? Or why do you really like RH better than you like the other two companies? Or why do you like them all evenly? Like, why do you like them all the same? And that's just something I'm trying to do with this podcast. But let's get into this TNA Impact broadcast for tonight. Well, I guess it may not be tonight when you watch this, but let's get into it. So first you got Eric Young, obviously upset at MVP. It makes sense considering MVP is kind of turned on the fans here. Why MVP? Why? He's kind of turned on the fans here, so it makes a lot of sense. It really does. That he would be upset. He goes to confront MVP at his limo. Yeah, MVP is moving on up. The heel turn has made MVP get his own limo. And you guys might want to take a picture. We may not see another limo in TNA, but MVP now has one. I am not joking. MVP has a limo now. I don't know if you guys remember. I'm sure you do. It was only about a month, maybe two, maybe even 3 months ago when MVP was debuting in TNA, and he came out in the minivan. If I can find a picture of the minivan, I will definitely put it on here. He came out in the minivan. So for MVP to have a limo at this point, he's moving on up. He's moving on up at this point. So we got to see a limo. A limo. I'm talking about a real. It won't like a crunched up limo. It won't like a Hummer he come out in or something. It won't a Jeep. It won't a Chevy. Well, it might have been Chevy. Anyway, he came out in a limo. I'm telling you. MVP, they moving on up in TNA, getting their own limo. Next, we had a video. Oh, well, before that, we had an Eric Young promo where he's basically like, "I'm the fighting champion, and I'm gonna defend my title tonight. And MVP, it's gonna be against you." And MVP's like, "Nah, nah, 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 nah. We gonna wait till Slammiversary because that's the smart thing to do." Well, that's not how it ended up being, but let's keep on going. We got Dixie, Carter, and Spud, Rockstar Spud, looking for Bully Ray. They pull up to Dixie Carter's driveway in Nashville, and they see a table that says Dixie fears Bully. That's the main topic of their feud. Who fears who right now? And I guess it's not really a feud between them. Technically it is, I guess. But we got Dixie Carter looking for not looking for rock stars, but looking for Bully, and these videos will continue to go on throughout the show, just progress throughout the show. Next, we had a Bram and Magnus match versus Willow. It was Bram and Magnus versus Willow in a 2-on-1 handicap match. I finally figured out the man's name. It's Bram, not Graham, not Brad, not some other name I was making up. It's Bram. I don't know where that name came from, but it's Bram. And I've been thinking about it, and I'm trying to figure out what they're gonna do with Bram and Grad. What they're gonna do with Bram and Magnus, because they're both from the same area, so it makes sense for them, and they know each other. So they would have, the chemistry already. It would make sense for them to put them in a tag team, you would think. But as you saw from the match tonight with Willow, they're kind of having a little bit of miscommunication. Bram wants to be the aggressive one and kind of just do whatever he wants to. He wants to use the weapons. He wants to use different things to get disqualified, just to beat up on Willow, rather than where Magnus wants to actually win the match. Even during Magnus's title run, he would do anything to win. So it makes sense with going with his character. So they're not happy at each other right now. Willow ends up winning this match because he basically rolls up Magnus, basically causing miscommunication between Bram and Magnus. Well, actually what happened before that is it was like a crowbar type of weapon that Bram slides into Magnus. He's like, use it. And Magnus is like, no, I don't want to get disqualified. You gotta be smart, pointing at his head, you gotta be smart. So basically that ends up getting Magnus rolled up, and Willow gets the 3 count and wins his match. So we're having a little miscommunication between Magnus and Bram, who I'm expecting to be in a tag team, but then again, it's kind of tough because they could also be in a feud sometime soon. So I don't know if they're going to put them in a feud or if they're going to let them tag together. I have no earthly idea. I'm still trying to get my guesses together. We had another Dixie Spud segment. Basically, Dixie sent Spud and the cameraman in while she waited outside. She sent him in his house because Bully Ray was calling her from her house. So she sent Spud in, and Spud the tiger, the gazelle. Obviously he's got to do the dirty work because he's he can roar at him. So Spud's got putting in the work. Next we had a Velvet, Sky, Gail Kim, Beautiful People basically versus Gail Kim type of segment. To start off, Gail Kim's like, I'm gonna bring some prestige back to this division because this division is some booty, with Angelina Love having the title. So basically, she's standing in the ring, she's looking at Angelina Love. From behind comes Velvet Sky, attacks her from behind. Basically, Gail Kim did win this match. It was a nice DDT by Velvet, which looked really nice. And the Eat the Feet finisher by Gail Kim, I've loved it all the time, but I saw it again tonight, and I was just like, wow, I love that that finisher. Well, and we had it. Basically, we've been seeing throughout the night, besides seeing Dixie Carter, Spud, and Bully Ray segments throughout the night, we've been seeing EC3, a video package with EC3, and they're talking about how Kurt Angle tore his ACL. EC3 basically says he is the future because he destroys the past. Sounding a little bit like a legend killer, Randy Orton type of guy. Randy Orton in his younger days wanted to be the legend killer. And basically the biggest difference is EC3 takes the nicknames from the legends and makes them his. The American Icon right now or something like that. Because he beat Sting and then he beat Kurt Angle, so he's the American Icon. Makes sense. Next we had Kaz versus excuse me. Next we had Kaz versus Crazy Steve of the Menagerie. Um, I don't know what they're gonna do with this menagerie thing. I have no idea. I really don't. But I do think it's cool that they're letting each individual fight because you really expected it to kind of just be Nux and that was it. But Crazy Steve is kind of off the wall as a character, so if they put him in a tag team with the I can't remember this the big guy in the menagerie. I can't remember his name for the life of me. The Force, the Muscle, something like that. I mean, everyone knows he's the only big guy in the menagerie. I mean, Nux is big, but a different type of big. It's I can't remember his name, but I mean, if they're gonna put him in a tag team with Crazy Steve, which hasn't been confirmed or anything, but if they're gonna put him in a tag team with Crazy Steve, then I mean that's just my guess. Considering TNA has like 2 tag teams, they didn't have a tag team match tonight, so that shows you how many tag teams they truly have. Not many. But you got you got Kaz versus Crazy Steve, and my first thought in this match was like, is Kaz staying in TNA? Because we've seen Kaz over the past 2 weeks, but we haven't seen Christopher Daniels, which makes me think maybe Kaz signed an extension, but Christopher Daniels didn't sign an extension, and I'm pretty sure they're real life friends, so it would be weird for Kaz to sign an extension, but Christopher Daniels not to. But I mean, with money and everything like that, it would make sense too because it is a business, so it would make sense. But basically, Kaz wins by DQ because Crazy Steve can't contain himself. There was one spot in the match where he brings out this whole like a ton of balloons, puts them in the middle of the ring, and then does a splash onto them and busts like only 2 of the balloons, but he busts some of the balloons. I don't even know what to think right now with Crazy Steve. I have no idea what to think. But then next we had a weird security guard bump. So MVP is not going to allow Eric Young to come and just beat him up. Or Austin Aries for that matter. So Austin Aries is trying to confront MVP. Oh, you're calling me a liar. You calling me, you're saying I'm not loyal. Look at you, and so what Austin Aries is trying to tell him, and MVP's like, get him out of here, and Austin Aries punches a security guard, and the security guard, he didn't even punch him. I think he like slapped him. It wasn't even a punch. It was like a slap, and the dude looked like he was came straight out of GTA. Like, how on GTA 5, you can run into someone and they fall and just stay there for a while. I remember one time I was playing GTA and I was just running and I accidentally bumped a woman and she died like immediately. This guy stayed down for a good 10 seconds. I'm like, he slapped you. What do you, get up and be mad and push him back or something. No, he's just laying there, and I'm like, what? Well, that doesn't make any sense. It was crazy. But then, based off of this, here comes Eric Young. Eric Young comes in, and he starts to beat up MVP, and we got a brawl brewing here. We got a brawl between MVP and Eric Young. MVP goes and works the arm of Eric Young, basically leading to a title match for the main event of the evening. So basically, the whole point of the brawl was to build up the title match for the main event, and MVP was working the arm. I'd never seen him have an arm submission hold, but he's working the arm. EC3 works the leg. He's the only one with a patented leg lock. So we've got to have somebody working the arm, right? So next we had a Mr. Anderson James Storm match. You got to think. Let's look back when James Storm kicked Mr. Anderson and cost him the match against Gunner a couple weeks ago when they were crowning the number one contender for the championship. So that's why this feud is going on, and plus Sam and Shaw's in the loony bin, so they're trying to do something with Mr. Anderson and James Storm since James Storm's feud with Gunner is over, and Mr. Anderson's feud with Samuel Shaw is, I would think, kind of on hold for now at least. Well, speaking of Samuel Shaw, next we get a nice Samuel Shaw update. Samuel Shaw sitting in a straitjacket in the psychiatric. That, I guess he's still in the van. I have no idea. I take it he's still in the van. Someone comes up to him and he's like, "Someone's here to see you, Samuel. Someone's here to see you." And Samuel's like, "Is it Christy?" Samuel's like, "Is it Christy?" So he's hoping for Christy to be there. That's all he wants to see. I would have laughed though if it would have been like his mom. That would have been great, because his mom is named Christy, I'm pretty sure. So that would have been funny. So after the Samuel Shaw update a little bit, kind of for a little second or two, we had a Sonata versus Tigre Uno versus DJZ for the X Division title, triple threat, three-way dance, whatever we're calling it, type of match here. And I'm glad to see DJZ back in the X Division. I love DJZ personally. He's a great character, and he does good work in the ring. My only problem, the only problem with Sonata is Mike Tenay mentioned he defends the title everywhere. He defends it here. He defends it in Japan. The thing about it is TNA isn't giving us the updates of him defending it in Japan. So we don't know he defends it in Japan. We only know when he defends it on Impact or at pay-per-views or whatever. We have no idea that he's defended it in Japan, because TNA's not like, "Oh well, Sonata defended in Japan against whatever the guy's name is." We don't have to know the guy. It's just nice to know, hey, if you're gonna say he's defending it in Japan, if you're gonna say he's defending it in Japan, then you should probably give us an update on who he's defending it against. Give us some footage, something, And that's the thing about, that's the only thing I don't understand with TNA is why, if you're gonna say he's defending it in Japan, then why not let us see, like, okay, here's some footage of him defending in Japan. Because we get the video packages where he's putting Japan, I almost said Japan. He's putting Japan on his back. But we don't get the videos of where he's defending it elsewhere. And that would be nice to see. So basically Sonata does win this match. I don't really expect a lot of title changes on the regular Impact Wrestling broadcasts as much. They do a lot of title defenses, but I never truly expect any title changes. So, it is good though, because with them having that type of those title matches, you do get a big match per Impact broadcast, which is great. Like last week we got the ladder match, this week we're getting an X Division title match, and a three-way X Division title match at that. I mean, I can't really complain at that point. Next we have Gunner, turns out, is the person who comes to visit Samuel Shaw. Which is weird to me, because Gunner and Samuel Shaw have never had any type of relationship. I don't know if this is some type of character build for Gunner, because obviously everyone who ever watches TNA feels that Gunner has no character at all. But this may be something they're gonna try to work with to give Gunner a more defined character. So we'll see where this goes for the next few weeks. And from what everyone is hearing, we're hearing a torn ACL from Kurt Angle. Don't get me wrong, I believe it's true. I don't think it's completely tore though. I think it's one of those partial tears. The reason I'm saying that is, he's only out for 4 months. we saw a tweet from Kurt Angle, and it said successful surgery. It said something about a successful surgery, la. And then it said, I'll be back in 4.5 months, something like that. So if he's only going to be gone for 4.5 months, a complete ACL tear, if you think about it, puts you out for um, at least 8 months. It does. It puts you out for at least 8 months, and sometimes 12, sometimes longer. Just depends on how well you are recovering. I mean, look at Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose was out for a while, so I feel like this is a partial tear because if you think about, Terrell Suggs when he partially tore his ACL, he came back during the season. Like he hurt it in off season. He came back during the season. I mean, that's about 3 months there. So you got to think of it. It's probably a partial tear because he's not going to be gone for long. He's only going to be gone for 4.5 months. Next we have another update on the Bully Ray Dixie Carter Nashville thing. So Bully Ray is like, just, he catches Dixie Carter and he says, just say this. If you say this, I'll be out of your hair. Dixie fears Bully. If you say this, I'll be out of your hair. I will leave. I will leave you alone. This will be over. And just as she's about to say it, she says, Dixie fears, and you can see in the corner, like in the back, behind EC, I didn't gave it up. Behind Bully Ray, you see someone who looks similar to EC3, and it is EC3. And this tells me that, for one, Kurt Angle is going to be out for a while if they're starting a new feud with EC3, because EC3 is going to be in a feud with Kurt Angle, so it makes sense that they would start a new one if Kurt Angle is going to be out for an extended period of time. So it's going to be EC3 versus Bully Ray. I'm excited about this feud because Bully Ray is great in the ring, and I love EC3. And I am excited to see a feud with EC3 in it. That's basically my main thing. I'm really excited to see EC3 work in the ring in a nice feud with someone. Next we had the Eric Young versus MVP match. MVP's coming out, and Eric Young comes around the ring and attacks him from behind, tries to get the upper hand. Well, MVP gets the upper hand and just starts beating him down. When they come back from commercial, they throw Eric Young back in the ring, and basically it ends up being a no contest because Kenny King comes out and interferes in the match. Kenny King, the same guy the MVP was, there was a potential MVP Kenny King feud a couple weeks ago. The same guy is now working with MVP. So we got MVP and Kenny King, and then Kenny King knocks out the referee. So basically that's what ruled in a no contest, because the referee disqualified MVP. But MVP's like, restart the match. The referee's like, I'm the referee. I'm not going to restart the match. So MVP is still beating down Eric Young, and MVP is basically forcing the referee to restart the match, but Kenny King hits the referee and knocks him down. So we hear this music come on as MVP and Kenny King are still beating down Eric Young, and it's Bobby Lashley. We hear Bobby Lashley's music. Bobby Lashley's music hits, and Bobby Lashley comes out. Now we're thinking, oh, it's the Cavalry. But there was something weird about Bobby Lashley coming out. Bobby Lashley slides in the ring. He waits, and he spears Eric Young. Now, I was a little surprised with Kenny King working with MVP. I was a little surprised with Bobby Lashley working with MVP. But they are. And it makes sense for the storyline. Let's think about this storyline. MVP came in, the face version of MVP came in with the Wolves, right? This is what I think is gonna happen. The face version of MVP came in with the Wolves, right? And they won the titles. Not necessarily because MVP was in charge, but because they're the best tag team in the business right now. In TNA at least. Probably in any wrestling, period. They win the titles. But wait a minute. MVP turns heel, goes after Eric Young's title, and think about the people MVP signed when he came into, or MVP was given credit for signing when he came into TNA. Bobby Lashley, Kenny King, and now this Bram guy as well. Well, we had the faction between Kenny King, Bobby Lashley, and MVP. That makes sense. My question is Bram and Magnus, are they gonna become a viable tag team and then win the tag titles? That's one thing I'm thinking of. But guys, I'm telling you, I'm excited to see what TNA's gonna do with the MVP heel turn, this new faction they've started, this new trio they've started with, Bobby Lashley, MVP, and Kenny King. Interested to see what's gonna happen with that. But guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this Impact Wrestling broadcast, and I hope you enjoyed the Instant Classic Wrestling podcast. Bigger things are coming in the history of this podcast and the future of this podcast. So I hope you guys enjoyed. See you guys later. Peace.